30 years of the best sports talk in Middle Tennessee, featuring Tennessee Radio Hall of Famer George Plaster, Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame coach Watson Brown, and Young Guns Billy Derrick. And now, here's your host, George Plaster.
Hello again, everybody. Welcome in. Man, it's football time. Truly. We've got the NFL season starting, I guess, Thursday night at Arrowhead. We now have a full week of college football behind us. And all of this is a good thing as we broadcast live from our new digs at the Fordyce Center in Bellevue. And let's get it started, since it is football season, with Terry McCormick's Daily Titans Update, which is brought to you by Lori Burnett Leland. She wants to be your mortgage lady, and through the folks at USA Mortgage, that is very possible. So dial her up at 615-969-4350. Let's say hello to Terry McCormick, Main Street Media. Terry, what's going on with the Titans?
Well, George, today is a day off, but tomorrow gets everything going for real. They'll be on their regular routine of practicing Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday in preparation for Sunday's game down in New Orleans. So interesting. One area that Mike Vrabel talked about in his press conference yesterday, he was asked about the backup quarterback situation, and he said that still has not decided on who it's going to be, whether it's going to be Malik Willis or whether it's going to be Will Levis. And I found that interesting because, you know, he could just be being coy about it and not wanting to let it out there who it's going to be. But aren't you doing a disservice to Malik Willis if he is the guy who is your number two, if you haven't, announced that he is that guy after he's gotten the lion's share of the work in the preseason? So that puts at least a little bit of doubt in my mind that maybe they want Will Levis to win that role.
Well, Terry, they can want it all they want, and that may be what they end up doing. But you're right about one thing. No matter how you try to interpret this, it's not a vote of confidence for Malik Willis.
No, it really isn't, because if he had done enough, and they keep talking about how he's improved, and certainly he has, but if he had done enough in their mind to win the number two job in preseason when we have barely seen Will Levis, then shouldn't they and wouldn't they have come out and said Malik is going to be our backup down in New Orleans?
So let me ask this. What do you think ultimately is the determining factor? I mean, if it hasn't been decided, then is it the practice sessions between Wednesday and Friday?
I guess so. I mean, that's would appear to be about all there is left to make that determination. And I guess they'll go through the week. And Vrabel said that he would let us know later in the week which guy it's going to be. Now, on the quote unofficial depth chart, Willis is listed as number 2 and Levis is listed as number 3. But when it comes to hearing it from the horse's mouth and from Vrabel saying it, he didn't come out and say it yesterday.
So, Terry, you have been worried all along about their offensive line, and rightfully so. A year ago, with all the injuries, it turned out to be a huge problem. Through a series of circumstances, it's looked like a big problem in preseason. Do you believe it's really any better?
Well, I don't think it can be any worse. I'll put it that way. Because last year with Dennis Daly and so many guys beat up and banged up at the end of the season, they were basically playing the second string out there. It couldn't be a whole lot worse. The question that I have is this: you brought in so many new faces, and yes, it can be hard for those new faces to gel and learn how to work together and do all the things that makes an offensive line successful. But the big thing is many of these guys that they brought in, with the exception of Peter Skoronski, who's a rookie, obviously, are veteran guys who didn't play a lot last year for the teams that they were on. They were backups. Aaron Brewer obviously is an exception as well, but he's a holdover, moving now from left guard to center, which is more his natural position. But when you're talking about Andre Dillard, Daniel Brunskill, and now Chris Hubbard, who looks like he's going to be the right tackle, it's a situation where you're talking about guys who haven't played a lot of football over the last couple of years, and you wonder if they're going to be up to the challenge.
Okay, I'll kind of leave it with you. Anything else that you want to lay on us before we call it a day?
Well, I guess the thing that I would say most is things that bear watching this week would be to see how well Traylon Burks progresses. He was back on the practice field. Looks like he is trending toward playing, if I were to say right now. The other thing to watch out is this week in practice, watch out for Arden Key, who's been out for a little while with a calf injury. Let's see if he's back on the practice field and getting a full complement of reps tomorrow.
Terry, good report as always. We'll check back in with you tomorrow.
All right. Sounds good, George.
That is Terry McCormick's Daily Titans Update, brought to you by Lori Burnett Leland. She wants to be your mortgage lady, and through the folks at USA Mortgage, that is possible at 615-969-4350. Let's send it out to Murfreesboro and say hello to one Kelly Holcomb. Kelly, how are you?
Great, George. How you doing?
Good. So I know football was at the top of your weekend. I guess you were down at Troy, weren't you?
I was. Yep. We played. They played Stephen F. Austin. Kind of started out fast, and then kind of sleptwalked through the rest of the game, which was kind of tough. Stephen F. Austin's not bad either. I mean, they got some players, and they've got the I forget the kid's name that was the quarterback at UT a couple years ago. The guy that was all tatted up. Is it Bauer or Mauer? Mauer?
Brian Maurer.
Yeah, Brian Maurer. Yeah, he was the one playing for Stephen F. Austin.
Wow,
big kid, man. Yeah, I didn't know where he had gone, but he was at Stephen F. Austin. So we got up to a big lead to begin with, and then kind of, I guess it's human nature to put on the brakes a little bit and let those guys get back in the game, which you can't do.
By the way, we have breaking news. Clemson just got in the red zone and committed a turnover. Good Lord.
True. That was really bad. I mean, you can just see the look on Dabo Swinney's face, man. He was just over it. I mean, it was like they beat him in everything, every category, every statistical category, but that's what mistakes do to you. When you get down there, you've got to put it in the end zone. They were throwing interceptions that were tipped in the air and fumbling the ball down inside the team. It was crazy.
So let me ask this question, Kelly. Klubnik, the kid that they have really touted at Clemson.
Right.
There's a play fairly late in the game where he goes into the slide too early,
right,
and it ends up being a turnover by way of fourth down. The slide, he comes up short. He's really been ballyhooed, and last night that came away with sort of a and it was a mental rockhead play at the end where he's got to dive to make the first down. Right. Doesn't seem to know where the chains are. What do you think of him?
I'm kind of with you. He's come in with all these accolades and everybody's talking about him. I don't know. I think he's probably going to be a pretty good player. I really do. He can complete balls. That's just a situation right there, George, where you got to learn. There were times where I remember playing one time and I didn't even realize it was fourth down. So, I mean, that just happens. Sometimes you just get lost. You're not focused on what you need to be focused on. And he's got to understand that they've taught him to slide. Everybody's sliding now, but the slide starts where you start the slide at.
Right.
And I can promise you he wasn't thinking about that. I would have never thought about that either. But now he knows that when it's fourth down, I'm not going to make it a question. I'm just going to dive from now on. So he'll learn from that. But that was not a good game. the fumble that he had when he and the running back had the mishandle on the snap, or when he was riding him, and he didn't. I think he was indecisive about what he wanted to do. He either wanted to pull it, and then he thought about pulling it, and it was too late. So just things like that you're going to learn from. And Dabo said it in his press conference. There's everybody going to be talking about us and writing us off. And he said, we're not going to give up. And there's a lot of learning things that you have to experience through that. And I tell you what, you got to give a lot of credit to Duke too, George, when you and I talk. I mean, even Luganville, Tom Luganville said it on the sideline. He's like, this is not the normal Duke team. There's not much difference in the speed between Clemson and Duke anymore. And I think that was pretty apparent when you're watching the game. They had some guys that can make the plays. Their quarterback's pretty good too. He's not a bad player. I mean,
that kid's got some intangibles.
He really does. He can run, and they're talking about him being in the top 3 quarterbacks in this coming up draft. So he's a good player. They've got a good team. They're probably going to win some games. Well,
congratulations to them. And Riley Leonard is a terrific quarterback. By the way, back on Klubnik for a minute. The slide is kind of a rockhead play, but his hustle to prevent a touchdown on the interception return, that got my attention as well, in fairness to him.
Yeah, that's something that I could not do, George. I was down at a preseason game when I was playing, when I first started in the NFL, and the Tampa Bay Bucks, which I was with, were playing the Miami Dolphins, and that when Dan Marino played, and I can't believe Dan Marino was even playing in the game, but he threw an interception. And this was preseason. He literally threw an interception, and Derek Brooks, this was Derek Brooks' first year. Derek Brooks got the interception, ran right by him, and Dan Marino just took off walking towards the sideline and didn't even try to make the tackle. And I'm like, that's wild. That's what I would have been last night. There's no way I could have caught that kid. And the club dude showed that he could run. So you can tell he's an athlete. There's something there. He's just got to get a little bit more experience under his belt.
Billy, good weekend?
Great weekend.
Good.
Saw Vanderbilt beat Alabama A&M 47-13. So slow start for them, though. It was an ugly first half, and I think there's more concerns than things to be excited about for Coach Lee. But they got it done, and they got Wake Forest this week. So,
Billy, I think if me and you and George got a team up and we play, and we got some BGA guys, it's maybe some Father Ryan guys and can block for me, and you give me a couple of receivers, I believe we might have a chance against Alabama A&M, dog.
Would I be your leading receiver?
No. I'm going to use you as a decoy, if I can use you as a decoy.
Thank you. Thanks. Appreciate that.
George, you stole the update first piece. That was Duke's first win over an AP top 10 team since 1989.
Wow.
Against Clemson.
Since Spurrier.
Yeah. And Spurrier was there.
Yeah.
I saw Spurrier was at the game last night. It was their second largest margin of victory over an AP top 10 opponent, trailing only a 34-point win over Colgate back in 1942.
Did he mumble something about the Citrus Bowl?
I'm sure he did. But after the game, Dabo Swinney said that's the weirdest game I've ever been a part of.
It was a weird game.
I've had my butt kicked, but that's the strangest game I've ever been a part of. I'm not saying he's blaming, losing the game on it being a weird game. They did outgain Duke in every category, which is what made it weird. But Duke shot themselves in the foot in the first half too.
Sure.
That was one of the more ugly first halves I've ever seen. I mean, I tried as hard as I could to watch that. It was hard, but Leonard right out of the gate, scored that long 40-yard touchdown. It felt like that took the momentum of the game. I'm sure we'll be talking more about that one later. Obviously, George, earlier in the weekend, Florida State dominated LSU 45-23 in Orlando. Jordan Travis, nice start to his Heisman campaign, 342 yards and 4 touchdowns. Jaden Daniels was running for his life. And that's another game we'll get into.
Unless he gets hurt, Jordan Travis will be in New York in December.
Agreed.
Book it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
He's a stud.
He's a heck of a –
he can play.
And he got even better as a runner, it looks like. I mean, he's dynamic, as dynamic as it gets. Tennessee dominated Virginia 49-13. We talked about Vandy. The new AP Top 25 is released, and I'm interested to see where Duke and Colorado moved up. Duke is at number 21, Colorado number 22 after pulling off that win over TCU. Top 5 is Georgia, Michigan, Alabama, Florida State, and Ohio State. So Florida State in the top 4. at least in the AP poll. But, it really doesn't matter until the college football playoff poll comes out. Also, LSU dropped 9 spots, and Clemson fell 16 spots. So a lot of shifts early on here in the first week.
Clemson is still in the top 25?
25th.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Wow.
They fell 16 places, it says here. So, yeah.
Okay.
Great. They started out at number 9. And for me, it's all about Klubnik and his struggles. If he plays a little bit better, I think that's a closer game. But that's where Clemson's at right now.
They couldn't get the ball downfield at all.
No, and they're not. Kelly mentioned it earlier. They don't have the speed advantage really over anybody anymore. And the running back they had, I thought, was big, but he wasn't beating anybody in a 40-yard dash.
Maffa.
Yeah, I mean, Duke was just as athletic.
They were really good. It's a big win for that program.
Huge win. We'll talk more college football, of course, at the top of the 3 o'clock hour. Let's go to the NFL, though. Breaking news earlier, Kansas City Chiefs tight end Travis Kelce hyperextended his knee in today's practice, Coach Andy Reid announced. Coach Reid said, we'll just see how he does going forward. They open Thursday night when they host Detroit. So I think they would like to have Kelce in that one, but I'm sure you wouldn't risk him to get back just for game 1. I mean,
I think there's a defensive lineman they'd like to have back too.
Chris Jones.
Yeah,
He's
absolutely.
not there.
They're not the same. They're not the same defense.
They're not.
He's not there.
That's a different defense. Yep. Also, Cowboys. I don't know if you guys have been keeping up, but they signed Trayvon Diggs, they signed Malik Hooker and Terrence Steele, an offensive lineman, to extensions, and they reworked the contract for Zach Martin, and they would still like to work on deals for Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb. Prescott and Lamb are under contract through 2024, and Prescott is set to count $59.4 million against the cap next year. And there's a lot of talk about Dak's future in Dallas and on Jerry Jones's weekly radio appearance. I don't know. Is it daily now? I mean, I don't know what it is, but it's on 105.3 The Fan in Dallas. He said, we expect Dak to be with us a long time. And he said, we'll always be working around it with several machinations of numbers that would work. My question, do y'all believe Jerry Jones saying we expect Dak to be with us a long time?
Yeah, I mean, I think he feels that way. I think he's hoping that he has a breakout year and can stop all the naysayers. There are a bunch of them out there, but he's still one of the better quarterbacks in that league.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, he's still a good football player. He didn't have a great year last year, but he's still up there. I mean, you talk about being in the top 10. He's one of the guys you think's in the top 10. So
absolutely,
I can understand what Jerry Jones is talking about.
That's all I got. We got to get on to Tony.
After the break, we're going to get into the Vols' impressive opener against Virginia. Knoxville Sports Talk Show host Tony Basilio will join us. And first on the list will be, man, how quick is their defense? Stay tuned. Year number 2 of the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night was awesome. And the reason is really simple. I chose Strike and Spare, and they were amazing. They have great food, great bowling, and a staff that is truly ready to go the extra mile to help you. They have 5 family fun centers in the area to choose from, and for more info, go to strikeandspare.com or call them at 615-824-5685.
How am I going to get to work? My car's totaled.
Skylar, our team is making a call right now. We'll get you a rental car. Don't worry.
That's a relief.
Call us 24/7. We're here. We're going to help.
As the trusted premier custom home builder in Middle Tennessee, Donnelly Timmons has over 20 years of experience in the industry. Whether you're looking to build your dream home or renovate your current home, their team will ensure that every client and every remodel is unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donnelly have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonleyTimmons.com.
I'm Watson Brown.
I'm Kelly Holcomb.
I'm Billy Derrick.
We're the George Plaster Show. We've been Nashville's best sports talk for the last 30 years. And you know what? We still are.
Catch us live weekdays from 2 to 4 p.m. Central Time in Nashville on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. Also, the podcast version is available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Looking for more than just awards and trophies? Southern Trophy House is your one-stop solution. For over 60 years, their team has created lasting impressions with a personalized touch. From embroidery to screen-printed apparel to corporate awards, signs, and name badges, they have everything you need to keep your brand shining bright. With their knowledgeable customer service team, you can relax as they create, produce, pack, and ship merchandise and awards on time and on budget. That includes etched crystal awards, custom-cut acrylic, name badges, embroidered Richardson ball caps, banners, screen-printed T-shirts, laser-engraved Yelly cups, and knives. Recognize your hard-working team from Southern Trophy House, where they do their best to help you recognize your best. Located at 2705 Nolensville Pike in Nashville, give them a holler, 615-256-7295. Visit southerntrophy.com. Southern Trophy House, for all your personalization and recognition needs. We are back. Saturday at Nissan Stadium turned out a lot the way most of us thought it would, and that is that Tennessee would win going away against the Virginia Cavaliers. But there's a lot to talk about in the aftermath, and with that, we welcome Knoxville sports talk show host Tony Basilio to our microphones. Tony, how are you?
Never a dull moment, guys. Never a dull moment.
I believe it. So here's what, just sitting watching on television all weekend, here's what struck me. There isn't a defense in the country that looks quicker to get to the football than Tennessee. That's the first thing that hit me.
Yeah, the speed's a lot better. I'm trying to temper what I think about that game because the opponent was so bad, guys. And how bad is bad? Well, this week, Virginia plays at home with James Madison. And Virginia right now, they opened as a 6-point underdog. It's been bet up to 7. So I'm not sure how many games Virginia is going to win this year, but JMU is a favorite against them. So that can't bode well. But Tennessee's front 7 is a lot quicker than it was. They're getting better and better athletes, and they're developing guys, which, again, we've talked about that here. That's kind of the secret sauce with Heupel and his staff. They've been really able to develop people.
So it seems to me one of the hard things to do is simulate that kind of speed. Certainly, Virginia never saw that in practice. They couldn't possibly simulate that. This is simply that they're really getting it done in recruiting, isn't it?
I think so, yeah. And they're developing people. So, the Pierce kid who we saw, and they've gotten a couple good players out of the portal as well. This Peely kid from BYU at linebacker, they feel very good about. But, George, they're recruiting a different level of defensive player. And in this class, there's a few more of those guys. My question mark for Tennessee coming into that game was going to be on the offensive line. And I don't know how much they answered that or didn't answer that, because again, the opponent was such that I don't know what kind of conclusions you can draw other than Tennessee a couple years ago was thought to be among the dregs of society as it related to major college football. And in 2 short years, there's a Grand Canyon between themselves and teams like Virginia now. A Grand Canyon. Like, Virginia didn't belong on the field with them. So, and that's just happened in 2 years. So good on Josh Heupel, his staff, everybody involved. It's terrific.
Okay, I can guarantee this got talked a lot about in your post game. We'll go on the left to Joe Milton. Milton did some really good things in the game, but there is also a sequence in one possession where it looked like he tried to dial up his fastball, try and get it to about 104 and be a Aroldis Chapman. And on 3 passes in a row, he wasn't anywhere close. So how much are they having to, in the middle of a game, sort of dial him back and say, okay, let's get it back to what it has been working?
Well, they had a series of empty possessions, right, where they went 3 and out a few times, which that's not what Josh Heupel's team is built to do. Their defense is not built in games of consequence to withstand that. And a lot of that, as we talked about it on our Garza Law post-game show that we did after the game, a lot of that sort of happened once Tennessee had a drop. Ramel Keaton dropped the ball he should have caught, probably would have gone for a score. And then after that, it looked like Milton got, I don't know, bothered by that, flustered by that, distracted by that, whatever the term is you want to use. But it took a few series to get it back. The thing Tennessee fans have to realize, and I've been saying this all preseason, I think Joe Milton's okay. I don't think that he's what people project on him. I don't think he's going to be a great player. I think he's going to be okay. And okay is good enough. In that offense, like Saturday, he was okay Saturday. And he put up enough numbers to be a offensive player of the week in the league. Now, granted, it was probably not the best week in the league in terms of the competition the league faced. Florida and LSU didn't exactly adorn themselves in glory, shall we say, stepping out of the conference. So I guess the award had to go to someone. I just think when it comes to Joe Milton that he needs to avoid those stretches like we saw. And then the other thing, George, is Tennessee's got to be better on third downs. In his 3 starts so far as quarterback, and people think this is nitpicky, but it's reality. And I'd like to ask Kelly about this, because the reality of this deal in these modern offenses is you have to stay on the field. You've got to figure out a way to convert on third down. Their third down conversion percentage with him is about, in those 3 games, is about 20 points lower than it was. It's in the early 20s, where Hendon Hooker was like 45% and Joe Milton's like 22, 23, whatever that number is, somewhere in that neighborhood. My point is, when you play games of consequence, you can't do that on third down. They've got to figure out a way to get in third and manageable situations with him.
Kelly, jump in on that. He brings up a really good point about, a defense, because one of the things you don't want is a quick 3 and out, and all of a sudden your defense got to go back out there.
Mm-hmm.
No, and that's the money down. That's what we talked about when I was in the NFL. You've got to be able to stay on the field. And if you're watching the Florida State LSU game the other night, I could have told people in the first half that LSU was not going to win the game. They could not get Jordan Travis off the field on third down. He was killing them. They tried to rush 3, which you can't do. If you're going to rush 3, you better spy him. If you rush 4, they wasn't getting there, and he was moving around. So, yeah, you're absolutely right, Tony. Now, defensively, Tennessee's pretty good at getting people off the field.
Pretty good.
They've been really good the last couple of games going into last year. So it was pretty amazing what their defense did. We just talk a little bit about like the Aaron Beasleys and some of those defensive linemen. They had a couple of guys. The Pierce guy I think he had 2 sacks.
Two.
And yeah, there was another guy that had some forced some tackle for losses. Just
Barron
talk
had
about,
a couple. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely.
They know that their front seven is a strength of their team. Now, I told you guys that I kept hearing in practice that Tennessee's offensive line was getting whipped daily occurrence. And they're concerned. They're still concerned because you really don't know offensive line. What you have, do you go to Florida? Because you're going to see good athletes against Florida. And no offense to like an Austin P this weekend, but, you're not going to test you. So, defensive line-wise, though, the eye test. I'm an eye test guy. All these analytics and all this, what I call pro football hocus pocus. You guys might go for that stuff. I call that stuff pro football hocus pocus. I don't call it pro football. I call that pro football hocus. Anyway, the thing about pro football hocus pocus is they want me to believe not what I see, but what they tell me. And I'm a big believer in all these sports now because we've done it in baseball, George. Kyle Schwarber leads off for my Phillies. The guy's hitting 188. He's your leadoff hitter. I mean, you can't do better than that. Oh, well, he gets more at bats. No. Eye test. I want a guy that can run a little bit at the top of my lineup. When my front seven, I need a front seven that can run. And in this era, I need a front seven that can get to the quarterback. And that's the one thing they did really well the other day, which is a good positive something or other that they can carry over into their next game this week, which they will, the 1AA opponent, and particularly down at Florida. I mean, you've got to heat that guy up at Florida. You got to heat that turkey quarterback up back there.
Well, I kind of feel sorry for the Muskie kid. He was getting drilled.
Oh.
I mean, Virginia, you're absolutely right. It's amazing how far since Josh Heupel's been there that they're that much better than it's in. Now, Virginia shouldn't even have been on the field. We know they got to play the game, but they were after the Muskie kid. And if you can do that with your front guys, I mean, you're going to win a lot of football games. And it seems like Josh Heupel has done a great job recruiting, obviously, but he's kind of gotten that defense up there to the pace of what the offense plays at.
Well, and then you had look at that field there. You had that attendance record down there, George. I understand that the Titan fans are very, very upset with the Vol fans for claiming an attendance record in their building, and and Tennessee fans are telling the Titan fans that place is never rocked like we rocked it. Now, George, you might want to come down on this. You might want to take a stand. I don't have a dog in this fight. I'm a uniter, not a divider, George. You know me. I'm not here to start anything.
No, I know you're not.
The place really rocks when Vol fans are in there, and when Titan fans are in there. I don't know. I don't. I'm just telling you what they're telling me now.
Well, let me say this: Tennessee's offense is a little more exciting.
I'm bringing that to the airways because I had a couple of listeners challenge me and said, "Would you bring that to George's attention?" And I said, "Yes, I most certainly will." I said, "George and I are friends. We can talk about anything on the show. He will not get offended. He will not get upset." But yeah, you bring up a great point. There is something about. Let me ask you guys about something about college football right now, early in the season. Am I noticing things, or are defensive lines having their way with offensive lines right now? And
there are less points being scored than there were 2 or 3 years ago.
What is this? And let me ask you, Kelly, because one of my learned listeners brought this to me and said, "I've got an idea." Is it the transfer portal? And
I think so.
That so many of these linemen are being shuffled into these deals that it's going to take 4 or 5 games for people to figure out what they have on their offensive lines.
Well, look at going on. Well, I was thinking that the other night. Look at the kid from Florida State, that Jared Verse kid who went to the University of Albany. He was kind of an undersized guy, and now you look at Florida State's defense. Florida State's defense is unbelievable. Now they've gotten back to the point where they're looking like the team of the 90s. They can do it offensively. They got a dynamic quarterback, and then defensively, you look at it. So I was sitting there on the couch the other night, and I'm like, all these kids are transferring in from these schools, man, and I don't know as necessarily I like it, but that's the way of college football, and that's the way it's going to be. But if you're kind of an undersized guy that goes to a smaller school, and then you get some recognition by all these coaches watching tape, and you play against a bigger school and play good, then they bring you in. I mean, I think that is absolutely what's going on. A little bit of that. There's, obviously some good recruiting going on, but with the transfer portal, there's a lot of colleges not even recruiting high school kids. I mean, they're leaving high school kids out, which kind of sucks. They're only getting a few of them. But I think the transfer portal has a lot to do with it, Tony. I really do.
Well, and how can you talk about college football and not talk about what Deion Sanders did?
Unbelievable.
But there are several other great stories out there. I mean, Texas State's a great story.
I used to think it was a prison.
Yeah. Exactly. The other
Hey,
look at what Duke did last night.
Look at Duke. All these teams though have reworked themselves though in the portal, and then you've got a guy like Dabo Swinney, who says, "I'm not going to get into that portal, that gum portal." Hey, Dabo, you either get into that or you get out of college football.
You get left behind
because you're getting ready to go 7-5 every year. If he doesn't get into the portal, that's what's going to happen to him.
Hey, Billy, can you put that picture back up for a minute? Because I want to have a tad bit of fun here. Can you, Tony, point out to me the Virginia section?
That never even crossed my mind. Did they bring anybody? What the hell? I mean, where are they?
It looked like the chancellor may have been in a suite, because they had. I mean,
do you think their chancellor wore like some orange just so he wouldn't get accosted in the parking lot or something? I mean, look at that. They call that a neutral site game, George. That's
neutral
my favorite thing about these games.
Yeah.
Hey, which brings me to this. So, Tennessee fans in a couple years are thinking that Tennessee's probably going to put a beachhead in that city and try to play a game down there semi-regularly in that new stadium. And our fan base doesn't like that because everybody wants home games. And I think college games should be played in college stadiums. I think pro games should be played in pro stadiums. I'm traditional in that manner. But George, with the shifting demographics in the mid-state, and it's exploded since you've been there. It's exploded from the beginning of your radio career and the old like WTN days till now. I mean, think about the population and the amount of kids in that area, and I think it would behoove Tennessee to get in that new stadium, don't you?
Yeah, and I'm with you. I realize in the opening weekend of the season, you've got some cities that have done this: Orlando, Charlotte, Nashville, Atlanta. I get that. That might be the one exception where I'm cool with it the opening weekend, or Philadelphia for the Army-Navy game. But the question is, what do you have to charge? Because, if you're Tennessee, you're used to playing in front of 98 to 100,000 at home, and all of a sudden this new dome, which I think is being built maybe 5,000 too small at 60,000, what do you got to charge to make that up?
Well, it's a great point. I mean, I know the Nashville Sports Council down there paid Tennessee a pretty penny for the opportunity.
What did Virginia get for their 50 people?
Yeah, and I don't know how the finances of that. I don't pretend to know how these people get all their money back, but I would imagine if Tennessee got that rent pretty cheaply, I guess that's what it would come down to, is how much would the venue charge them in terms of working with them, and how much would they work with them. And so that's interesting, though, that I didn't realize the capacity was going to be so small in that state. So it's not going to be like the one down in Atlanta where it's 20,000 more. It's not going to be an 80,000, 60,000, huh?
Put it back up there, Billy.
That's surprising.
Okay. The Virginia section, I think, is in the light post. The light.
I mean, there are no Virginia. I've never, if you showed me that, George, and I didn't know that was real, I would think that was a Photoshopped, fake news kind of fake book photo,
Your new employee found that shot. Billy.
No, my new employee took that shot. He was adorned in orange and white, and he was there. He took that shot. And great job, Billy. That's a great photo. You are multi-talented for that Southeastern 14 site you're working for.
Great.
I don't think you could pay me enough to do that.
How about
bet he
that,
could.
Kelly?
I bet he could. Hey, money talks. Tell him, Tony, money talks, big dog.
Everybody has his price. Hey, Billy, we've got an opening on our post-game show. If you want to come join, man, everybody has his price.
Everybody's got a price.
Ted DiBiase.
I love it.
So where do we end this? Oh, I know where we end it. Billy Napier's not going to make it at Florida, is he?
No. There are.
How bad are they, Tony? How bad are they? How can you be in the state of Florida and at the University of Florida and be that bad?
The irony, guys, is that Dan Mullen was doing that game the other night, halftime. The Thursday night game.
Right.
Yeah.
Dan Mullen's the reason. He didn't recruit. He didn't try. And you can't take 4 years off in this league at this level. You can't just go, well, my schemes are so good that I don't need to recruit. You think Nick Saban sits there and says, you know what? my defensive schemes or hype or any of these guys, you can't just say I don't need ball players. Look at Deion Sanders, guys. They went out in one off season, okay? Cut their whole roster. Their team's better than Florida right now.
Seriously.
If you put them on the field right now, they would beat that Florida team. Yes or no? Yes?
I agree, man.
Sure might. I mean, for sure they got a quarterback. There's no doubt about that.
He's really good. And then that kid that played all those snaps, good gracious.
Hunter can play.
Can play.
And had to be in unbelievable shape in that temperature.
Unbelievable.
So, Tony, I'm going to let the cat out of the bag on one thing. I do, and we'll do it at 3:00. Studs and duds.
Yeah.
I'm going to let you know that Colorado is at the top of the stud list, and Clemson is at the bottom of the dud list.
Well put. Dabo Swinney. Dabo doesn't, he didn't want transfers, and he had some kind of quote today at one of his, or he told the press, he said, if these guys really start getting paid, I might have to get out. Dabo, the toothpaste not going back in the tube.
No.
So.
No.
And by the way, Dabo, those of us who follow college football know that you guys weren't exactly on the up and up in the old system. So everybody gets to kind of join the party now. No offense, Dabo. No offense to the Clemson people that are listening. I'm not trying to start anything.
No, you're a peaceful man.
Peace. I come at peace today.
Right. Put the picture back up again, Billy, so he can have one last shot to identify where you think the Virginia section is.
I'm looking out there, and George, if you look closely at that scoreboard, there is a Virginia family. They decided not to come in. They sold their tickets to Tennessee people. But if you look to the right side of that scoreboard, there's like a Winnebago out there with Virginia bumper sticker on it. If you look really closely, they got decals, window decals. That's the craziest thing I've ever seen. That's insane. Okay,
it's unbelievable. When they played Purdue in the bowl game, the Tennessee sections looked exactly like this, but Purdue had a surprisingly strong amount of people at that game.
That's right.
This time, the Virginia people, I think, were smart and said to hell with it.
Well, Virginia's an academic school, George, and there's not a lot of dummies there.
Right.
And
they just proved
those people found a better thing to do with their Saturday, because truly, if you walked in there from a Virginia perspective, unless you were a parent watching your kid play, I mean, that's an all-time horrendous football game to look at.
So tell people after this Austin Peay tilt how they can hear you.
Well, I'm saving myself, George. So we only did 3 hours after the Virginia game, and we're probably going to do that about this week. 3 hours with no commercial breaks, by the way, George. And I'm apologizing to my listeners for that, because I'm saving myself for this Florida mega cast that we're going to do, because Tennessee hasn't won at Florida in 20 years. Okay. So last time Tennessee won at Florida, I had hair. I didn't look haggard. My sideburns didn't look like I look like a bad knockoff of George Jones right now in the hat I'm wearing. But listen, 20 years later, so I'm going to be well rested, and I think I'm going to do a 9-hour post game.
Oh, gosh.
Now the game starts at 7. Now, Kelly.
Gosh, Tony, are you serious?
10 Eastern. So I'll be on till about 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. the next morning. And here's the crazy thing. We'll get calls all night long if we win. I know you guys don't believe that.
Oh, I believe it.
I do believe it.
For this.
That what will Billy's role be?
Answer the phone call.
No.
Facilitating phone calls.
No.
Go get coffee.
I love Billy's on it. I love Billy's podcast. Billy can come by and bring us like the SEC report, break down Vandy's game. Who's Vandy have next week, Billy?
They've
UNLV, same time.
UNLV in Vegas.
I mean, in Vegas?
Live report from Vegas.
How many are you going?
No, I'm actually not.
How many Vandy fans make the trip to Vegas? Will it look like the Virginia deal, George?
I don't know, but I'll say this: if the Mirage would send me the right stuff, hell, I'd go.
You damn straight. The days, George, of getting like points and the free hotel and the
free buffet,
buddy, those deals are gone.
They used to have one at Circus that they touted as the largest number of items.
Yeah.
The problem was about 2/3 of the items you'd never seen before. You didn't know if they were edible, not edible. I mean,
right. That's the stuff we leave to Mark Griffin to eat. He'll eat anything.
Wow. Okay, I think we've gotten it all done, and we've learned that you're a peaceful man and you don't start anything.
Well, tclub.team is where you find us, and we've got a great report up there today. Something up tomorrow. Well, something every day, but that's where we blog and do our thing. And George, man, it's always a pleasure to talk to you and Kelly. And how's Coach doing?
I talked to him yesterday. He wanted to know how his adopted son was.
Yeah.
I told him you're doing well.
Is he golfing a bunch? Is that what he's?
Not as much as he's been down in Florida. He's got a son who's a coach down in Florida. Mm-hmm. So he's been down there, and he's still in the Open. Kelly still has not been able to crack.
I'm not going to get in the Open. Obviously, it's unbelievable.
It's not only that, Kelly, but I'm watching some of these commercials leading into me, and they got him in there and not you.
I mean, I'm starting to think about
anything here, but
I am. I've tried to start it over the last few weeks. I'm thinking about suing at some point.
Right, but Tony's a peaceful man. He's not.
Yeah, he's peaceful, and it just means more. And it just means more
harmony and not discord. Yeah.
What you are trying to do is throw gasoline on a good fire, and it's working.
No. More of Billy. That's all. But guys, thank you.
Give Kyle Schwarber my best.
Oh God, I despise that guy. Thank you, guys.
We'll go to the break. We'll be back.
See you guys. Thanks.
Hello, this is Celeste Middleton, a State Farm agent in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. I want to help my neighbors and local businesses be proactive and assess their risk before something unexpected happens. We want you to have a thorough understanding of your coverages to have the best protection when you need it. We can create a personal price plan for you. Our team has over 70 years of experience helping people in Middle Tennessee. We have an awesome team with integrity and provide honest and prompt communication, and we love what we do and genuinely care about everyone we work with at our office. Give us a call at 615-895-2700, send us a message at celestemiddleton.com, or walk in at our office at 803 North Thompson Lane in Murfreesboro. We would love to earn your business.
Family owned and operated for more than 2 decades, Alaco Fine Wood Floors is Nashville and Middle Tennessee's choice for premium quality hardwood floors. Since 1995, Jimmy Alaco and his army of employees have embodied the approach of taking pride in one's craft and providing superior customer service, growing from a one-man shop to a team of 23 professionals who share the founder's passion for quality craftsmanship and customer satisfaction. If you are interested in contacting them, you can find their headquarters at 2505 Winford Avenue in Berry Hill, or give them a call at 615-356-0303. Again, that's 615-356-0303, or log on to alacofinewoodfloors.com. Alaco Fine Wood Floors, serving Middle Tennessee's hardwood flooring needs since 1995.
You can't see the sights without the sounds. From the crack of the bat to the roar of the crowd and everything in between, discover what Hit City has to offer. Spend your nights cheering on the Nashville Sounds at First Horizon Park with giveaways, fireworks shows, theme weekends, and more. Single game tickets are on sale now. Visit NashvilleSounds.com to claim your seat today.
So, Kelly, let's take that Florida situation a little bit farther. Billy Napier's a good football coach. I'm not
really
about to sit here and say that, he can't coach. But I do wonder, I'm starting to wonder about the fit at Florida, which has been kind of a razzle-dazzle, a coach with a lot of personality. And that's just not him.
Well, you said it when we talked today. He's a country boy from Cookville. I mean, he's I just don't know. I think Tony hit the nail on the head when he said that Dan Mullen didn't recruit. And I totally believe that.
I do too.
I've discussed things with Dorn before, and this is not coming from him. This is just coming from my observations about stuff. But I don't think Dan Mullen. I think he thought, just like Tony said, he thought that his system could win no matter who they had in there, and he found out that that's just not the case. And it's not hard, George, when you falter in recruiting and then you get left behind. And I think that's a little bit what's happening to Clemson. Clemson just don't look like the Clemson of old.
No,
and I think they were going downhill. And when you've got a Duke team that is running step for step with you, when years ago, when you were going to all these national championships and you were winning all these games, you could see a difference with Clemson being on the field. And Florida, I couldn't even watch the game, George. It was that bad. Like they were playing their third string quarterback, and the dude can play. There's no question about that. They've got 3 guys, obviously, that are talented at the quarterback position. So they've done a really good job of recruiting or getting people in there. But I just couldn't watch it, man. Graham Mertz, coming from Wisconsin, I know that was his first gig, being at Florida, having the pressure. I mean, let's face it. Like, the SEC is a little bit different than the Big Ten. I mean, I know there's pressures up there. I get that, but Wisconsin, you're not in the SEC at Wisconsin, and it's just a little bit different. So he might have had his first game nerves on. He just didn't play well. It just looked like they were overmatched by a Utah team that I can't understand, George. I said it to you and Tony earlier. Like, they're in Florida. They're the University of Florida, and they're not very good. Now, maybe they get better. I don't know. We'll see. But I'm with you. I don't know if he'll make it, George. I hope so, because I've heard everything I've heard about the guy. Is a great guy. I've never met him, but he's got to be. He's from the Volunteer State. He's a good dude. But he might not make it, George.
Well, here's what you really see out of all this, Kelly, is that the college game now is all about recruiting.
Yep.
For some people, recruiting is fun. I don't think it'd be fun for me. I think you're always beholden in the recruiting world to the 18-year-old. Well, now the 18-year-old's got his hand out saying, pay me. And there's
That's
some
right.
coaches that what they really want to do is tell the 18-year-old, kiss my butt. You know, going to X school ought to be good enough. Well, the whole landscape has changed. And the ones who don't enjoy recruiting and are not willing to put up with the hassles of transfer portal and NIL, which it sounds like Dabo really doesn't get into, you know what? This may not be the job anymore.
Yeah, they're going to get left behind because that's the status and that's where it is right now in today's college football. You have to be willing to get in there and do that. I've had a coach that I know a friend that's his coach is a cousin at Michigan State, and he said, I'm not even going after high school kids anymore. It's all transfer portal. I mean, we'll go after a few, but like they're going to get their majority from the transfer portal. And that's where the college game is going. If you're not willing to play that game, which I would have a hard time too. I'm going to be like Dabo. I would have a hard time too. That's why I'm not doing it. But it's tough. I mean, it's going to be tough out there if you don't do it because you're going to get left behind and you're going to see the Dukes and these other schools make a quick ascent. And that was quite shocking last night when I watched Duke. Duke, that was the best Duke football team I might have ever seen, George. What about you? I mean, I'm sure – now I know Steve Spurrier had some good teams back in the day, but, like, that might be the best Duke team I've ever seen.
It might not have been a fluke, Duke as
Absolutely
fluke.
Not.
It didn't feel like a fluke.
It does not feel that way.
Nope. Anyway, the bottom line, I believe, I don't think coaches are having any fun. I think the only thing that creates fun now is if you win at such a high level that you can ignore the recruiting and the NIL and the transfer portal, you know, as nothing but necessary nuisances on the way to winning so much that it just rubs out the negatives. The programs that are struggling or losing, those coaches are having no fun.
Well, George, just look at it. Just look what Colorado did with Deion Sanders. He's got 80-something new kids on his roster. And in the interview with Troy Aikman, he was like, you know, I had to talk to about 20 of them. And then he's like, the rest of them quit because they could see the writing on the wall, like they weren't good enough. And you got to give it to Deion. He's up front with them. He's honest with them. You're probably not going to make it in my program. And he went out and got 80 guys, and he went into TCU, which were the runner-up last year in the national title game. Now they got roped by Georgia, but they still made it to the game. They beat a really good Michigan team. They go into Fort Worth with a whole new roster, a whole new coaching staff, and beat those guys. So that just shows you it's just like when free agency came about in the NFL. I mean, that's you can get your team to a different level in just 1 year. It's crazy.
We'll go to the break. When we start the 3 o'clock hour, we'll have stat of the day. Then we'll have Kelly's version of what are the top 4 teams in college football. If the season stopped today, who would make the playoff? And then we will get into studs and duds. So stick around. We got a lot more coming.
Hey, thank you for meeting with me today. The insurance company has made an offer.
Already? How?
They've offered you the entire policy.
Thank you, Blair.
You're so welcome.
One source, one company.
Forget the fact that Sir Speedy Music City is owned by my BGA classmate James Warren. Their work stands on its own merit. James and his staff do incredible work, as evidenced by the huge banners at the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night. If you're looking for quality to help your marketing and business communications, and you want it at a reasonable price, these are your folks. Call them at 615-832-9511 or go to print at sirspeedymusiccity.com. And be sure to tell them Plaz sent you.
You know, starting to save for your future doesn't have to be difficult. Let Wilson Bank and Trust help tone up your financial goals this year. Our certificates of deposits or CDs can help your money work harder with our competitive rates, earning you more than ever before. WBT checking options allow you to earn rewards you can really use, like a high interest rate or cash back on check card purchases when you meet some e-banking qualifications. Visit your closest Wilson Bank and Trust office or online at wilsonbank.com to get started today. Member FDIC.
Star Physical Therapy was established in 1997 with one great mission: to serve. If you're hurting, don't wait to receive physical therapy. You don't need a referral to see their physical therapist, and early morning and evening appointments are available. Make the call to 615-673-1420 and get rid of that pain. Star Physical Therapy, the official health provider of Football Friday. So who said I can't be a golfer? Well, you know what? This is X Golf, located just down the road from the Fordyce Center in Bellevue. This is fun. It'll improve your golf game, and you need to stop in and check it out. 8138 Sawyer Brown Road, and who knows, I may get to 200 before it's all over.
Top of the hour on a Tuesday. It's time for Stat of the Day, brought to you by John English Antique Sports and Cards in Shelbyville. They're open during the week, Tuesday through Friday from noon to 5, and Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 5. Give them a call at 931-492-4304. All right, let's see what we got cooked up for today. We're going college football. After accounting for 5 total touchdowns against LSU, Jordan Travis is now third all-time in total touchdowns in Florida State history, with 73 career touchdowns, passing what former FSU player?
Third all time.
Okay, you could, Kelly, it would seem Charlie Ward might be one. Chris Winkie might be one.
Let's go back to one of my former teammates, Casey Weldon, being one.
Oh, wow.
I don't know. He was up for the high. He was getting talked about Heisman way back in the day.
Do you think one of the 3 that we just threw out there is it?
I'm not sure.
Could it be Rick Stockstill?
I was wondering if that was going to be it.
You know, let's just put it up there and see.
Y'all are overthinking it. It's Jameis Winston.
Oh,
Overthought it.
Poor old Jameis.
Who's number 1, Billy?
Number 1, I cannot tell you that.
You can't.
Credit to
Charlie Ward. It's got to be Charlie Ward.
Our latest intern Matthew pulled this up. Let's see.
Jameis Winston. I didn't even think about it.
Chris Winkie?
Chris Winkie, okay.
Yeah, Chris Winkie is the all-time leader in passing yards.
Okay.
There you go.
Good stuff. Let's get to a little subject that we will do each week during the college football season, even though right now it's a little early.
Oh, not that yet.
No. We go first with the top 4. Kelly's top 4 in college football as of this moment. And you have Georgia number 1. You have Michigan number 2. Alabama is number 3. And the Florida State Seminoles, after their trashing of LSU, is in the 4 hole. About the only thing I would argue about that, Kelly, because I totally agree with you that Florida State moves in at least for a week. Ohio State, I think you and I would agree, number 5.
I'm saying USC number 5, but I mean
Really?
Ohio State. Yeah. I don't know if USC's defense is good enough, but it's a toss up between USC and Ohio State as number 5 for me.
I would have put Alabama number 2 ahead of Michigan.
Gotcha.
You know, you say USC's deep. You don't know if they're good enough. Does that even matter nowadays? Like if you're scoring almost 60 a game.
At some point, it's going to matter. Yeah, now they're going to have to outscore people, but they're going to run into a team that can score with them at some point. You know, so you're going to have to. Yeah, I don't know. You may be right. You know, they always say defense wins championships, and I still want to say that, Billy. I still want to say that, but I understand at some point a defense has got to step up and make a couple of plays and get some, get people off the field. But offense is definitely taking a front seat in today's game. There's no question.
But it has slowed down a little bit, which I happen to think is a good thing.
I do too. I like watching. I like playing against a good defense. I mean, it's fun playing in those games where you throw for 400 yards, but like you want to see a good game at some point. That's why I think Florida State jumped so much, because I watched those guys the other night and I just could not believe LSU stayed in the game for a little bit, but like they could not get Florida State off the field. I knew that game was going to turn out the way it was going to turn out, because you can always tell, George, if you cannot get a team off the field on third down, you're not going to win the game.
Yeah.
And Florida State's really good. And they've got Jordan Travis, obviously, at the quarterback position, but defensively, they got a front four that can rush the passer, and they don't have to bring pressure. So it's going to be interesting to see how this goes. I'm not too sure about Alabama, because we still don't know about Jalen Milroe. You know, they played my alma mater the other night, and I heard Nick Saban talk about we need to pump the brakes a little bit, because we're going to place a little bit better competition coming up. I don't think he was throwing shade at middle, but let's face it, that's the deal. So we don't know how Jalen Milroe is going to play. Michigan, you don't know much about them. They got a lot of guys coming back, and they got the quarterback coming back. I think a bigger question mark is Georgia with their quarterback. They kind of struggled to start the game at UT Martin, and then they came on. So it'll be interesting to see. This is obviously a moving thing that'll move every week probably.
Yeah. So it is now time. Kelly, you were never I don't think ever a part of Studs and Duds that we did a year ago. And it's just basically having a little bit of fun as to who had a good weekend and who didn't have a good weekend. And you'll find every once in a while I'll put something in there that may not be college football related. So, Billy, are we going Studs first?
We're going Studs first, and we start with Colorado.
Let me make this clear. Deion Sanders is a former Brave. Okay? That should get him, with me, a little extra. And
we could get him on the show because of that. Just say you're a Braves fan.
Doubtful. I don't like the way he operates. I don't like the way he trashed a bunch of those kids. Unfortunately, this is now the norm in college football, where the coach basically can tell the kids to get lost, just like the kids can tell the school to get lost. It's a shame it's gotten to this. But, Kelly, this guy can coach.
You got to know, as a head coach, you got to bring good assistants with you too, George. I mean, he's and I think it would be cool, because he seems like a master motivator. He's a guy that can sit up there and you listen to every word he says, and he gets those kids to play hard. I mean, that's what it's about. Let's play hard for 60 minutes and let's see how the outcome. We might not win them all, but they're going to know we were there. And for him to go into TCU in Fort Worth and beat those guys. Now, I'm kind of with you a little bit about the way he did it, but he's being honest with those kids. I mean, some of them, we don't know what their roster. Their roster was probably really bad. And he might have looked at the film and had some people tell him and just say, "Hey, let's be truthful with the kids." So there's a lot of kids on some of these Division I teams that probably shouldn't be there, George. So whether you like it or not, he just went and had a big win, and he's got 80 new kids, used the transfer portal. Not everybody's going to like what you do, but hey, the results speak for themselves.
He's now got Nebraska Saturday, and Nebraska is their main rival.
That's going to be awesome.
When Bill McCartney won it all in 90, and they turned that program around, it was basically, we're aiming everything at Nebraska. You watch on Saturday, that will be one heck of an atmosphere at 11 o'clock in the morning. Number 2 on the studs list. I mean, that's a no-brainer. They trashed LSU.
And they looked like the SEC team instead of...
They did.
I mean, they were physical.
Brian catching a little heat.
Yeah, here's what I was going to say, man. I get sick of this. It just means more, because a couple of those "it just means more" got trashed the other day. LSU, and I guess Brian Kelly got on running his mouth at a radio program talking about we're going to go down here and beat these boys. But FSU looked like one of the teams of old back in the Bobby Bowden days when they were really good, when a bunch of my teammates that I played with in the pros played with those guys. And they look like they've got the total package. They got a kid right there that you see in the picture that can play. They've got a defense that can stop people. They've got a couple of receivers that they got in as transfers that are matchup nightmares for some people. So I think at the end of the year, they're going to be in this conversation.
I think they are too. Let's go to the third stud, Texas State.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
We don't even know where Texas State is other than it's in Texas.
You know who their quarterback is?
Yeah, TJ Finley.
I had no clue.
Yeah. So I would assume the biggest win in that school's history. And if you're Baylor, that's not a good sign.
That could be that could be not a good sign for the old head coach there at Baylor, who was the LSU defensive coordinator years ago.
Yeah. Fourth, how about him? Absolutely had to put him in.
George, you were worried about that series too, weren't you?
Very worried about that series. If you had told me ahead of time that they would take 3 out of 4, as hot as the Dodgers have been, man, big stuff for the Bravos. Now to the duds. Thank you, Baylor. Dave Aranda does not look like a happy camper there, does he?
No.
He looks like James Norville.
Looks like he's trying to get out of town.
He does look like he's trying to get out of town.
That's good, George.
Number 2.
Sunbelt Billy.
Man.
We've already talked about that.
Yeah, you really do wonder. I feel bad for him, because if it doesn't work at Florida, somebody else is going to go get a really good football coach. Because
he's a really good football coach, George. He went to Louisiana and won there. I mean, he's a good X and O guy, but I don't know. Sometimes people just don't fit at certain situations they're in. This may be the time, but hey, it's one game. It's one game. That's what happened at Clemson. So I'm sure everybody's writing them off too. So we'll see just how they bounce back. And if he can keep that locker room together, that's the one thing that I'm always scared about with this transfer portal stuff, George.
Yeah.
Is if you start out like this and he loses another game or loses a couple of games, can you get these kids to keep buying in, or they just throw up their hands and say, well, I'm transferring somewhere else next year? That's what worries me.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Third dud. South Carolina's offensive line got trashed. 9 times.
9 sacks, brother.
And that's against a defense that a year ago was awful. How much better are they? That's the thing about game one.
You never know. Is it one side or the other?
Yeah.
Is it a mix of both? I'll say this though, for North Carolina, if they can keep this up, watch out playoff. I mean, if their defense is this good, I don't think they are. But if they happen to have improved as much as it looked like they have in this game, watch out, because we know what Drake May can do.
They've got the signal caller in place. There's no question about that. And kudos to the former MTSU Auburn head coach Gene Chizik, who's the new defensive coordinator there. He's got them going. There's no question.
So initially I had Northwestern as the dud, but after last night, I scratched it. Clemson.
Clemson didn't look good. Good gracious.
How bad is bad? Okay.
Yeah, they had some misfortunate things happen, George.
So that's studs and duds for week number 1 of the college football season. After the break, we're headed to New Orleans. We're going to find out about the Saints. Former Nashville sports writer Jeff Duncan, who's been down in New Orleans for years covering that team, will join us. Jeff will be up next. Stay tuned. Year number 2 of the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night was awesome. And the reason is really simple. I chose Strike and Spare, and they were amazing. They have great food, great bowling, and a staff that is truly ready to go the extra mile to help you. They have 5 family fun centers in the area to choose from. And for more info, go to strikeandspare.com or call them at 615-824-5685.
How am I going to get to work? My car's totaled.
Skylar, our team is making a call right now. We'll get you a rental car. Don't worry.
That's a relief.
Call us 24/7. We're here. We're going to help.
As the trusted premier custom home builder in Middle Tennessee, Donnelly Timmons has over 20 years of experience in the industry. Whether you're looking to build your dream home or renovate your current home, their team will ensure that every client and every remodel is unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donnelly have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonnellyTimmons.com.
The George Plaster Show is Nashville's best sports talk, 2 to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. There's a podcast version available on Spotify and Apple Podcast. Star Physical Therapy was established in 1997 with one great mission: to serve. If you're hurting, don't wait to receive physical therapy. You don't need a referral to see their physical therapist, and early morning and evening appointments are available. Make the call to 615-673-1420 and get rid of that pain. Star Physical Therapy, the official health provider of Football Friday.
Sisters and brothers, this is Reverend Satchmo getting ready to beat out this mellow sermon for you. My text this evening is when the saints go marching in. Here come Brother Hickenbottom down the aisle with his trombone. Blow it, boy.
Wow. Billy Derrick.
How about that? Kudos to Billy. Kudos. Yes. Nice, Billy. I see you.
You like that creativity?
I do like it, man. You're finally stepping your game up, Billy, which is a welcome surprise.
It's football season. You have to.
So with that in mind, let's head on down to New Orleans. A lot of people forget Jeff Duncan was once a Nashville sports writer, ended up in New Orleans where he has found a real home covering the Saints. Jeff, what were the years here?
George, it was, I believe, like 97 to 99, right when the
the Titans / Oilers made the transition from Houston. So it was really a fascinating time, I'm sure, in New Orleans sports, in Nashville sports history, and really formative time in my career. So I really always enjoy visiting Nashville and visiting with you as always.
Yeah, listen, if you came up here right now, you wouldn't even recognize it.
I know. No, I've been back. Cranes in
Have
the
you?
air. Yeah, cranes in the air, and amazing boom town that Nashville is. I can still remember I lived in the Green Hills part of town, and when I go back, I try to drive near my old house and just see the growth all around the city in all different directions. When I was there, it was kind of going to the south more than anywhere else. Now it's going in every direction, as you know. But I can tell you this, New Orleans sports, the high-level people in New Orleans sports, they recognize what Nashville's doing. It's extended all the way down here because for years this has kind of been the hub, the college, Southern hub, the Sugar Bowl, college football playoffs. They know right now Nashville is a very competitive market for a lot of the big events that we have here and have had here for decades. They know Nashville's now a real competitor in that market.
Jeff, it seems like whoever was going to be the Saints quarterback after Drew Brees, that was going to be some really tough shoes to fill. Now it's Derek Carr, who by way of the Raiders ends up in New Orleans in free agency, chooses the Saints over the Jets. And it kind of feels like people have warmed to him down there, and that not that he's going to get a free pass, but that he's really going to be given a fair shake.
Yeah, I think that's very accurate. I think the Saints look at Derek Carr the same way the Rams looked at Matthew Stafford a couple of years ago. I don't know if they envision being a Super Bowl contender this year. I don't think they think that. Every team, I'm sure, aspires for that. But I think they look at him more as a piece to the puzzle than, say, the guy who's going to carry them the way Drew Brees did. I think they feel like their roster's good enough in so many other areas, especially on defense, that if he can just come in and upgrade that position from what they've had with Andy Dalton and Jameis Winston, that they can be back in the playoff hunt. They've missed for the last 2 years. They're certainly used to being in the postseason. And I think Derek Carr's taking that same approach. I don't have to carry this franchise. I don't have to be the guy like I was maybe in Oakland and Las Vegas. I just have to be a piece to the puzzle, and we can get to where we want to go.
So what do you think ultimately was the deciding factor between New Orleans and the Jets for Carr?
I think money. I think it came down to that. Usually does, George, in the NFL. I think the Saints put together a very attractive offer, and they frankly wanted him more than I think anybody else. And I think the Jets always knew that Aaron Rodgers was on the back burner, or probably was on the front burner, frankly, with them. And that's probably why their offer wasn't as lucrative as the one the Saints put out there. The Saints had really no backup plan from Derek Carr. I think Jimmy Garoppolo would have been in the mix, but they were all in on Derek Carr, mainly because Dennis Allen was the head coach in Oakland when they drafted Derek Carr. So he was familiar with him. They knew that this Saints offensive system was very similar to the one he ran when he had his best years with the Raiders under John Gruden. It's almost an identical system. So the fit was good for both sides.
How hard is it for Allen to get out of Peyton's shadow?
Very difficult. I think he's emerging from it, but it's always going to be there. I mean, Sean Payton took this franchise to heights it's never reached before. It was unprecedented what he did here. But I do think Dennis Allen is a much different coach this year. I've seen a different confidence, a different comfort from him. He's much more, I think, aggressive in how he's carrying himself. And I think a lot of that has to do with just a second year here. He's got some stability with ownership, I think confidence from ownership. And I think getting Derek Carr is a big part of it. And the players have noticed it as well, George. I mean, you can talk to players in the locker room. They say he's much more forceful in meetings with the team. So I just think this is a natural progression the further we get away from the Peyton era.
The Titans, it seems, get a real break in that Alvin Kamara will not be there with the suspension. Talk to me about how they try to skin the cat for these weeks that they don't have Kamara.
Well, they don't have anyone with his all-around ability. I mean, Jamal Williams was signed in the offseason to basically be this interim guy. They knew exactly what they were getting with Jamal Williams. He's not Alvin Kamara. I mean, Kamara is such a great receiver out of the backfield. He's not a guy typically that takes it the house 70, 80 yards. What he does do is turn 4-yard gains into 15 and 20-yard gains, whether that's with screen passes or in the running game. And as you know, George, that's critical in the NFL. You don't get a lot of 50, 60-yard runs. It's two great athletes. But turning those short gains into longer gains, that's his strength. And that's not Jamal Williams. So they're going to miss that. But look, the thing that they have going for them is they've known this all offseason. So they'll be able to game plan to the rest of their strengths on offense. And I think that's going to be the receivers and tight ends. I think the running game is going to be complementary until Kamara gets back. It's going to be more of a passing attack, leaning on Derek Carr and this good receiving core that they feel so optimistic about.
Kelly, say hello to Jeff Duncan.
Jeff, how you doing, man?
Doing good, Kelly.
It's always great when George takes all your questions. So I'm going to present this way, okay? Derek Carr coming in there. Jameis Winston has been there. How did he take – I mean, is he just – obviously he's the backup now, but has he just taken that in stride, or has that kind of been he hasn't been disgruntled about that in any way at all?
No, it's a good question. And no, Jameis has been terrific. I mean, he's been praised by all the coaching staff, by his teammates for the way he's handled it. I mean, he still envisions himself as a starting quarterback in the NFL. He said that to us. But I think the Saints feel good about having someone that's been in this system for a while in case Derek Carr does get injured. I mean, that's one of the great strengths for Carr is he's been very durable. I think he's only missed 4 games in his 9-year career. So the Saints are optimistic that he'll be able to play every day. But if not, I think they have to feel good having Jameis Winston, a guy that's won games as a starter, knows this system, that if they do have to call on their backup, they've got a guy that's done it before in the league.
Gotcha. Are they still going to use Taysom Hill the same way they've been using Taysom Hill the last couple of years when Peyton presented him as this kind of I can do everything type of guy?
Oh, yeah. He's going to be the utility back kind of extraordinaire. I think he'll play a big role in the game on Sunday. You know, Dennis Allen's message to his team when we talked to players in the locker room yesterday, he knows this is going to be kind of a street fight. Mike Vrabel's team's known as, some of the most physical teams in the league. And the Saints pride themselves on their offensive and defensive line play. But the message from Allen was, look, whoever wins the line of scrimmage is going to win this game. And I think when you have a game like that, you've got to lean on Taysom Hill, especially when you don't have Alvin Kamara in the running game. I think people forget Taysom Hill's a big part of this Saints running game. He comes in at quarterback. They run this quarterback power play where they do a lot of RPO, and he becomes almost like another fullback running back at quarterback. I think you'll see that in short yardage, goal line situations, a lot of Taysom Hill.
Okay, so let me present this last question to you about Alvin Kamara. How much will they miss him? How much will they miss him? That dude's a really good football player. We all know that. Great out of the backfield, presents a bunch of matchup problems. Who have they got to fill in for that?
They don't have anybody that can match Kamara. I mean, they're going to have to scheme away, I think, from that part of their game. And look, I'm sure Tennessee knows that. The Saints will probably lean heavily on Derek Carr. One of the things they're excited about when Drew Brees was here, they put a lot on his shoulders to change plays at the line of scrimmage, to make the correct audibles at the line. They really didn't do much of that the last couple of years. Derek Carr, it's a strength of his. So I think we're going to see a lot of plays where you see him at the line of scrimmage, reading the defense, getting them in and out of plays. And I think they're going to lean a lot on his passing attack, short passes, coordinated approach with Derek Carr, and their tight ends, a good young emerging prospect in Juwan Johnson, Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, Michael Thomas. I think this is going to be more of a short passing game until Kamara gets back.
Gotcha. So who are you rooting for? Obviously, you're Tennessee. You used to be a Tennessee guy. Now you're a New Orleans guy. Who you rooting for? You got any conflicting things going on inside?
No, I'm not rooting for anybody. I'm just rooting for the game to get over quickly. That's how I always root. I always tell people I root for the story, right? So
Yeah.
I tell you what's interesting. A little interesting nugget here. The Saints have never beaten the Titans in the Superdome. The Titans are 3-0. Now I know it goes back beyond that if you go back to the Oilers, but as the Tennessee Titans, as we know them as a franchise since they moved to Nashville, never lost in the Superdome. So there's a little trivia for you. And look, I think this is going to be a very difficult game. I mean, Mike Vrabel's a great coach. Their staff is excellent. I think they've done a lot in the offseason to improve. This is a team. I don't think either team is going to win this game by more than 3 points. If you're a bettor out there, I don't know what the line is. I don't play that game very much, but I do think it's going to be one of these kind of close field goal games. I'll be surprised if it gets lopsided.
Hey, Jeff, what went on with Breeze leaving NBC?
I think more than anything, George, it was flying cross country to having to go, all the way to the East Coast from his West Coast base. I think that got old to him pretty quick, and he wanted to do more game coverage as opposed to studio work. And one of the reasons he retired when he did was to spend more time with his family. And all of a sudden he found out this broadcasting, flying, on a private jet, late night hours, getting back, losing sleep. That wasn't what he really wanted to do. I think he wanted to do more game analysis, and that wasn't what they signed him up for. So I think it was just a mutually beneficial parting of the ways, because I actually didn't think he was as bad in the booth as everybody made him out to be. I think you know what you're going to get when you get Drew Brees, and that's what you got. But for some reason, it just kind of snowballed, as things do these days in groupthink. That Drew Brees was terrible on air, and I never felt that way. And matter of fact, if you see him sometimes now, when he does little cameos, he's really good. And I think he would have developed into that if he would have given a little more time. Yeah.
Is he living in New Orleans?
No, he lives out in San Diego area.
Does he really?
Oh, yeah. You know this, George. I mean, anybody that buys a home at some point in San Diego, they never sell it. Once you get used to that weather and that idyllic conditions, it's hard to leave. And he's been based out there since his playing days with the Chargers.
76 degrees with a breeze every day. I mean, that's what you want.
Yeah, every NFL coach and player I know, even in Major League Baseball, I mean, there's so many athletes that live out there. If you talk to Drew, I mean, where he lives within a stone's throw of so many other professional athletes, both current and past guys, alumni. There's a real community out there, and they love it out there. He's also got a home in Hawaii. He's got a place here. He'll always have a place here because he does a lot of business here, but based in San Diego.
I want to say Phillip Rivers has a place still in San Diego as well.
Yeah, a lot of guys. I mean, John Carney, I know Mike Riley that coached the Chargers. He kept his place there. I mean, it's just so beautiful and but it is a long flight if you're having to be based work-wise on the East Coast. And I think that got old for Drew, Yeah.
Hey, last thing, and this is just, I'm curious, not all that important. The shape of the Superdome, does anybody talk about new stadium, or is that not even discussed?
No, and I think that's a great question, George. I mean, I've seen the renderings of the new stadium in Nashville, and that thing is incredible. I mean, I feel like I was just going on tours of what was a Delphi Coliseum back in the day, and I see the new stadium already going up, and here we are in the dome. It's now approaching, 50 years old, 60 years old. No, they're in the middle of a renovation, so they're pouring more money into renovating. It's becoming iconic down here for people, the way, say, Fenway Park is, or Wrigley Field, or Lambeau Field. I don't think anybody here has any motivation to build a new football stadium. I think they love the dome. It's been a part of the history of this city, and I think it'll continue to get renovated, but I don't think they're going to try to build a new stadium anytime soon. They've done so many feasibility studies. It would cost 3 or 4 times more than what it costs to renovate it right now. And the next renovation will be done this next coming off season in time for the Super Bowl, which will be here after next NFL season.
Oh, wow. Bring it on. Jeff, Great talking to you.
Yeah, great to talk to you, George. Always love talking to my friends back in Nashville. Love that city. Can't wait to get back. Hopefully we get a Sugar Bowl, not a Sugar Bowl, SEC championship game up there soon. I can come visit.
Come on back. Love to have you.
Will do. Great talking to you all.
Jeff Duncan joining us from New Orleans in anticipation of the Saints and the Titans to open the NFL regular season. It's here.
Yeah. Good. Lots to talk about.
Oh, yeah. This is the fun time. This is the time, it's an easy time because there is so much out there.
Yep.
Guess who's coming up after the break?
Pogue.
Pogue.
This should be interesting.
We're going to find out what his trip was like to Notre Dame. Kelly, you ever been there?
I have not. I've never been to Notre Dame. My brother-in-law loves Notre Dame, and when I was in Indianapolis, they went up and watched the spring game up there. I didn't go. I'm not a Notre Dame guy, but that's got to be a cool historic place to go see.
I've done a football game there, and my Memphis State team played in the I don't know if it was Mideast Regional, whatever regional it was, at Notre Dame's gym, which is virtually a carbon copy of Murphy Center in Murfreesboro. Yeah. They look exactly alike, or at least they did when it was first built. Anyway, Pogue will share some thoughts with us about what the trip was like for Tennessee State. I'm talking about just the sightseeing and the stuff around campus. We'll talk with Pogue when we come back, so stick around.
Family owned and operated for more than 2 decades, Alaco Fine Wood Floors is Nashville and Middle Tennessee's choice for premium quality hardwood floors. Since 1995, Jimmy Alaco and his army of employees have embodied the approach of taking pride in one's craft and providing superior customer service, growing from a one-man shop to a team of 23 professionals who share the founder's passion for quality craftsmanship and customer satisfaction. If you are interested in contacting them, you can find their headquarters at 2505 Winford Avenue in Berry Hill, or give them a call at 615-356-0303. Again, that's 615-356-0303, or log on to alacofinewoodfloors.com. Alaco Fine Wood Floors, serving Middle Tennessee's hardwood flooring needs since 1995.
Hey, thank you for meeting with me today. The insurance company has made an offer.
Already? How?
They've offered you the entire policy.
Thank you, Blair.
You're so welcome.
You can't see the sights without the sounds. From the crack of the bat to the roar of the crowd and everything in between. Discover what Hit City has to offer. Single game tickets are on sale now.
Looking for more than just awards and trophies? Southern Trophy House is your one-stop solution. For over 60 years, their team has created lasting impressions with a personalized touch. From embroidery to screen-printed apparel to corporate awards, signs, and name badges, they have everything you need to keep your brand shining bright. With their knowledgeable customer service team, you can relax as they create, produce, pack, and ship merchandise and awards on time and on budget. That includes etched crystal awards, custom-cut acrylic, name badges, embroidered Richardson ball caps, banners, screen-printed T-shirts, laser-engraved Yelly cups, and knives. Recognize your hard-working team from Southern Trophy House, where they do their best to help you recognize your best. Located at 2705 Nolensville Pike in Nashville, give them a holler, 615-256-7295. Visit southerntrophy.com. Southern Trophy House, for all your personalization and recognition needs.
Convenience and value, 2 words that we expect when we do business. Our goal at JHA Company is to deliver just that, both to our school partners and to our customers. Whether you're purchasing photos, yearbooks, class jewelry, letter jackets, school spirit wear, or senior graduation products, we strive to make the experience easy, convenient, and cost-effective. Find out more at jhacompany.com or call 615-867-6345 for more information. JHA, one source, one company.
Okay, Greg Pogue should be joining us in just a moment. As a lot of you know, he is the play-by-play voice of the Tennessee State University Tigers. They were in South Bend over the weekend to take on Notre Dame. Kelly, one of the cool things they do up there is you can actually go down in the bowels of the stadium on Friday and watch them basically put the gold on the helmets.
Yeah.
Shine them up. And it's different. There's no question. It's different.
It's a cool place. I mean, it's, watching Rudy. Watching Rudy. That's kind of what you remind me of, George, a little bit of Rudy-ish to you, but it's a cool place. There's a lot of tradition there. It's just, they hadn't won a national title since Lou Holtz was there. Is that correct? I think it was 88? 88 was the last time. Yeah. They got a lot of they got a lot of stuff going on. I mean, they got the contract with NBC, and I don't know why they can't get over the edge though. They just I don't know. And if you're the coach, why you leave? Why would you leave? Obviously, Brian Kelly felt like he couldn't win it all there, and he wanted to go down south somewhere, and he got on to LSU. But like you say, I'm sure he's having a little bit of trouble today.
Oh, I'm sure he's heard it for the last couple of days because they want to be a national title team. And in the fourth quarter of that game, didn't feel like they were. So the question, let me pose it to you. I'm in a little bit of a stall. Don't know what's happened with Pogue, but how close do you think Notre Dame is to being where they need to be?
I don't know if they're up that upper tier group of schools. Do you think that, George? I mean, I know that they've got the Sam Hartman kid from Wake Forest, and I think he's
really
he's what you want as a quarterback. I think he's a leader. I think he brings guys together. I think those offensive guys love to play for him. He's not an overly huge guy, but he makes plays. I think he's the right guy that you want in your system to be a leader of that football team. I think he's there, but it remains to be seen whether they can get over the Alabamas, the Georgias, the Ohio States, the Michigans, the Florida States right now. Maybe the USCs. It's because they'll play USC later on in the year, so it'll be interesting to see just how far they go. I think they've got a really good football team, and I think it starts at the quarterback position. I think they got a good one.
Okay, I'm told Pogue is ready. Let's bring him up there. Greg, how are you?
Hey, good afternoon, fellows. Hope you had a good Labor Day weekend.
Yeah.
Oh, did you just wake up then? What are you doing?
I do more in 2 hours than you do in 2 days. I don't want to hear
it. Here we go. Here we go. Get out of bed.
So what was the trip like? Had you ever been there before?
Well, if you remember, Vanderbilt went there in 94, 95. I was the Vanderbilt beat writer for Rob Howard the dim years. And, so I'd been there. I'd been to a couple games there, but it was, doing a game there. I really tried to keep it as a business thing, but we had Howard Gentry on the pregame, and he put it into perspective and just the cultural event and the meaning of Notre Dame playing an HBCU, much less, lower level, obviously the FCS, but the HBCU component, certainly. It was a 4-day festival. They had symposiums. TSU, Notre Dame had a composite of a logo.
Having some trouble with Pogue.
Yeah, it sounds that way, and it may well be that we need to do this by phone. And,
might just do that.
Yeah, we'll see if we can bring him back on here in a minute. Pogue, you may be able to hear us. We lost you, and so we're going to try to get you on by phone here in just a second. So kind of hang with us.
Is he still talking?
He's talking to himself.
We are calling you right now, Pogue.
So, okay, I think we've got him on. Pogue, you there? Well, we thought we had him.
So working on it.
Yeah.
Little awkward stall here.
Well, it is a little awkward. Pogue is way out. Not exactly in Nashville Prosper. I've been where he lives, and it's out there a ways. So
no, he's in the Smyrna area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Billy. This should be interesting.
Hey, the hits just keep coming here, George.
Hello.
Good times, great oldies.
This is your operator. We have a collect phone call for Mr. Greg.
The phone, considering where he
Pogue.
is, him on the phone may not be much better.
May not be much better. Okay. We tried. We gave it our best shot. We'll bring him back up on.
Tell Pogue to go down to the quick sec next time where we got a signal.
Is there no signal where he is?
I don't know.
He's out there, bro. He's out there.
Yeah.
I mean, my goodness.
I've been there.
He's towards 840, dude. He's out there.
So we tried. It was, I just kind of wanted to hear some of what went on, and that's interesting. I guess one thing I don't know, Billy, who approached who about that game?
Well, Eddie George and Marcus Freeman played together at Ohio State, so they.
Oh, that's right.
They,
I wondered that.
Yeah, they're good friends. So I think that was a big part of it.
Pogue wants back in. Let's give him one shot.
This is not going to go well.
No, it probably isn't. Pogue, are you there?
Pogue, you got a cricket phone, dude. Like, get rid of the cricket.
This is on a potato, George. It's not worth it.
It had no chance. So
no shot.
No shot. It was a good idea.
You have too much faith in that signal.
Yeah. Let's go plaster bet of the day. I think it's yours to take over.
Yes, it is. Brought to you by Bart Durham Injury Law. Give them a call, 615-242-9000, or log on to bartdurham.com. Solid weekend for George. 2-2. Lost the Hawaii bet. They ended up losing by a couple of scores to Stanford on Friday night. Hawaii had a few guys hurt, though. They had they had a couple of guys on defense get ejected for some big hits, so they ended up not covering. UTSA didn't cover in an interesting result.
That one surprised me. When I watched a pretty good amount of it, Houston, they were the better team.
Yeah, and then Tulane and Florida State both were able to cover pretty handily.
Tulane is pretty darn solid.
They got Ole Miss on Saturday.
Yeah, we know how good Florida State is, at least off 1 week. So here's where we're going tonight. It's back to baseball. Taking Tampa at home against the Red Sox. Tampa lost yesterday. They're in a battle with Baltimore that right now they're not winning. And at the moment, Tampa, which had this huge lead early, the season stop right now, they'd be in the 4 hole as a wild card. Crazy, but true. Anyway, Pogue, I don't know what to tell you other than we tried. We just couldn't make the signal work. It was a good try. Kelly, tomorrow you're going to learn a little bit about Wake Forest. Stan Cotton, their play-by-play voice, will join us at 2:20. And I will be here, and I know Billy will be here, and hope millions of others will join us.
Billy, can you tell Pogue he can't have a cricket phone and to get out of the bed next time?
Yeah, I mean, that's not up to our broadcast standard.
Really?
Standard. Let's just go ahead and throw that out there, Billy. What is it?
Standard is the bottom line of at least having a signal to where we can actually see and hear you.
Wow. But Pogue made the effort.
Yeah, he made the effort.
Yeah.
He
was 5 minutes late. We'll dock him for pay on that one, but no problem. He did make the effort.
Yes, because guests get so much out of this. We're done. We'll see you tomorrow. Enjoy.